I thought I was just another kid with daddy issues.
Oh, yes.
Until DNA revealed my father was conducting genetic experiments that could change the world forever. Growing up, I always had this hole in my chest where a father should have been. Not the dramatic movie kind of hole, more like that annoying feeling when you can't remember where you put your keys. Except it never goes away, and it's about half your DNA. My name's Sarah. I'm 28 now. And for most of my life I was raised by my mom, Linda, in a small town outside Portland. Mom is incredible. She worked double shifts at the local diner, somehow managed to make it to every school play I was in, and never once made me feel like I was missing out on anything. But kids aren't stupid. When all your friends have dads picking them up from soccer practice, and yours has a mom who's always running late because she just got off her second job, you notice? The story about my dad was always the same. He was young, we were young, it didn't work out. Mom would get this distant look in her eyes whenever I asked, like she was remembering something beautiful and painful at the same time. She'd ruffle my hair and say, "You got his curiosity, though. I'm always asking questions about everything." And it was true. I was that kid. It's the one who took apart every electronic device in the house just to see how it worked. The one who spent hours in the library reading about black holes and quantum physics, while other kids were playing video games. By high school, I was captain of the Science Olympiad team and had already decided I wanted to study biochemistry in college. Just like your dad, Mom would say with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. The thing about growing up without a father is that you create one in your mind. Mine was brilliant, obviously. Where else would I get my love for science? He was probably tall, maybe a teacher or a doctor. In my teenage fantasies, he was some kind of researcher who had to leave because his work was too important, too dangerous, too secret. I know. I watched too many movies. But when you don't have facts, imagination fills the gaps. College at Oregon State was everything I'd dreamed of. Finally, I was surrounded by people who got excited about DNA sequencing and protein folding. My professors loved having a student who actually read ahead in the textbook, and I threw myself into my studies like my life depended on it. Maybe because, in some weird way, it felt like it did. It was during my junior year, in Dr. Martinez's advanced genetics course, that I first heard about consumer DNA testing. This was 2018, and companies like 23andMe and Ancestredna were everywhere. Students were getting their results back and comparing their ethnic breakdowns. Finding out they were 3% Scandinavian, or discovering they were related to their roommate's boyfriend's cousin. It's fascinating what we can learn about ourselves, Dr. Martinez said during one lecture, pulling up a slide showing a sample family tree generated from DNA matches. These tests do just tell you where your ancestors came from. They can connect you with living relatives you never knew existed that night. I called Mom. We had this ritual where I'd call every Sunday at exactly 8 p.m., right after her shift ended and before her favorite show started. "Mom," I said, after we'd gone through the usual updates about school and her work, "I've been thinking about doing one of those DNA tests." The silence on the other end stretched so long, I thought the call had dropped. "Why would you want to do that, honey?" There was something in her voice. Not quite panic, but close. Like when you're redriving and realize you might have run a red light, but you're not sure. Just curiosity, I guess. And maybe, I took a deep breath, maybe I could find him. Another pause. When Mom spoke again, her voice was carefully controlled. "Sarah, we've talked about this. Some doors are better left closed. But what if he wants to meet me too? What if he doesn't even know I exist? Trust me, baby, he knows. That should have been the end of it. Should have been. But I was 21 and stubborn and full of that particular brand of confidence that comes from thinking you know better than everyone else. That night, I ordered the test kit. Looking back now, I realized that conversation with Mom was the moment everything started to change. Not when I got the results. Not when I found him. But that Sunday night when I heard something in my mother's voice that I had never heard before. Fear. The kit arrived 3 days later in a small, innocuous box that looked like it could contain earrings or a phone case. Inside was a plastic tube and instructions that seemed almost disappointingly simple for something that was about to turn my entire world upside down. Spit in the tube, mail it back, wait 6 to 8 weeks for results. Remember holding that tube and thinking about all the questions that might finally get answered. What did he look like? Was he still alive? Did I have half-siblings out there somewhere? Was he proud of what I'd accomplished? Or would he be disappointed that I'd tracked him down? I sealed the box and walked it to the campus mailbox. Before I could change my mind, so I heard it thud to the bottom, I whispered something that was half prayer, half challenge to the universe. Let me find him. 6 weeks later, I would get an email that would make me realize I should have been more careful about what I wished for. The email arrived on a Thursday morning while I was cramming for my organic chemistry midterm. You know how some moments are perfectly ordinary until they're not? I was sitting in the library, surrounded by textbooks and empty coffee cups, when my phone buzzed with a notification that would split my life in two. Before and after. Your DNA results are ready. My heart started doing this weird flutter thing like a bird trapped in my rib cage. This was it. After 21 years of wondering, I was about to get some answers. I clicked the link with hands that were suddenly shaking. The ethnicity breakdown was interesting, but unsurprising. Mostly Irish and German, with some Eastern European mixed in. What made me nearly drop my phone was the section labeled DNA relatives. At the top of the list was a match labeled close family, possible father, with 49.7% shared DNA. His profile name was just two initials, RK. RK had been active on the site recently, just 2 days ago. His profile was sparse, no photo, no family tree, just those 2 letters and a location, Seattle, Washington. Less than 3 hours from where I grew up. My hands were legitimately trembling now. This was him. After all these years of wondering and fantasizing and imagining, I was looking at actual proof that my father existed, that he was real, that he was less than 3 hours away. But here's the thing that made my stomach drop. His account was created just 3 months ago, right around the time DNA testing was becoming really popular in the news. Why would someone in their 40s or 50s suddenly decide to do a DNA test? I spent the rest of that day refreshing his profile page, hoping he'd add more information, or better yet, reach out to me. Nothing. The silence felt deafening. That night, I called Mom. My usual Sunday call moved up by 3 days, because I was buzzing with nervous energy. I got my DNA results, I said, skipping our usual pleasantries. Oh, that's nice, honey. Anything interesting? I could hear her television in the background, but something told me she wasn't really watching it. Mom, I found him. My father. He's on there. The television went silent. Sarah? His initials are RK, and he lives in Seattle. Did you know he was in Seattle? That's so close, Mom. All these years, he's been so close. Baby, listen to me. You need to be very careful about this. There it was again. That fear in her voice, sharper now. Careful about what? He's my father. Don't I have a right to know who he is? Some secrets are kept for good reasons. What secrets, Mom? What aren't you telling me? The pause stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Your father. He's not like other people, Sarah. He's brilliant. Yes, too brilliant. Maybe. And he's ambitious in ways that can be dangerous. Dangerous how? Is he a criminal? No, not a criminal. But his work, ... the things he studies. I left for a reason, baby. I left to protect you. This was the most Mom had ever told me about him, and somehow it only made me more confused. Protect me from what? What kind of work could be dangerous? Was he in the military? CIA? Some kind of weapons researcher? Mom, you're scaring me. Good. Maybe you'll listen and leave this alone. But I was 21 and thought I was invincible and had finally found the missing piece of my identity puzzle. Of course I wasn't going to leave it alone. The next few days were torture. I kept checking RK's profile, hoping he'd message me or update his information. I started researching everything I could about DNA matches, about how the percentages worked, about false positives. The science all checked out. This was definitely my father. Then I had an idea that seems incredibly naive now, but felt brilliant at the time. I could try to figure out who he was through other means. Seattle wasn't that big a city, and how many people with the initials RK could there be who were the right age and worked in something science-related? I started with university websites. University of Washington, Seattle University, Seattle Pacific. I went through faculty directories and science departments, looking for professors or researchers with those initials. Nothing jumped out at me, but there were a few possibilities. I tried biotech companies. Seattle was a hub for that kind of work, with companies like Immunex and Zymogenetics. Again, nothing definitive, but I made a list of potential matches. It was while I was going down this rabbit hole that I stumbled across something that made my blood run cold. I was browsing through research publications on PubMed, searching for recent papers with author names starting with RK. Most were boring medical research, studies on drug interactions or treatment protocols, but one caught my eye because of the topic: ethical considerations in human genetic enhancement, a framework for future research. The lead author was Dr. Robert Kessler, affiliated with something called the Meridian Research Institute in Seattle. The paper was published just 6 months ago. I read the abstract 3 times before the implications hit me. This wasn't just about studying genetics. This was about modifying them, enhancing them. In humans, my father wasn't just a scientist. He was a scientist working on changing what it meant to be human. According to the research I was reading, some of his ideas were considered controversial at best, dangerous at worst, by the mainstream scientific community. Suddenly, Mom's warnings didn't sound paranoid anymore. They sounded terrified. For 3 weeks after discovering Dr. Robert Kessler's research, I lived in this weird limbo between knowing and not knowing. I had his name now, his workplace, even a professional photo from the Meridian Research Institute website that showed me where I got my stubborn chin and intense dark eyes. But having information and having answers are completely different things. The research papers I found kept me up at night. Dr. Kessler, my father, wasn't just studying genetics. He was pioneering something called directed human evolution. His papers talked about identifying and enhancing specific genetic traits, about eliminating hereditary diseases before they could manifest, about creating what he called optimized human specimens. The language was clinical, academic, but there was something underneath it that made my skin crawl. In one paper, he wrote about the moral imperative to improve the human condition through scientific intervention, and argued that natural selection is too slow and random for modern challenges. I kept wondering, was I one of his experiments? Was my mom some kind of test subject? Is that why she ran? These questions consumed me. My grades started slipping because I couldn't concentrate on anything else. My friends noticed I was distracted, always on my phone researching obscure genetic research institutes and bioethics controversies. I lost 10 pounds because I kept forgetting to eat. Finally, my roommate Emma staged an intervention. "Sarah, you're freaking me out," she said, sitting on my bed while I hunched over my laptop at 2 a.m. reading another one of my father's research papers. "You haven't slept in days. You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have," I muttered, not looking up from the screen. "Talk to me. What's going on?" So I told her everything. The DNA test, finding my father, discovering his research. Emma listened without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions until I'd laid out the whole complicated mess. "Okay," she said when I finished. "So you found your dad, and he's doing some kind of controversial genetic research. What's the worst thing that could happen if you contacted him?" "I don't know. That's what scares me." "And what's the worst thing that happens if you don't?" I looked up from my laptop for the first time in hours. I spend the rest of my life wondering, right? So you have a choice between unknown scary and known scary. I'd pick unknown scary every time. Emma had this way of cutting through my anxiety and getting to the heart of things. But she didn't know what I'd found earlier that day. The thing that had sent me into this latest research spiral. There's more. I turned my laptop toward her and pulled up an article ID found buried in a science journalism website.
Oh, look at this.
The headline read, "Controversial Geneticist Under Investigation for Unauthorized Human Trials." The article was from 8 months ago and mentioned Dr. Robert Kessler by name. According to the piece, the FDA was looking into allegations that Meridian Research Institute had been conducting genetic modification experiments on human subjects without proper oversight or consent. Emma's eyes widened as she read. "Holy shit, Sarah, your dad is like a supervillain. That's not helping. Sorry, but ... this is insane. What if your mom was involved in this? What if that's why she left? What if I'm some kind of genetic experiment?" I finished for her. "Yeah, I've been wondering that too." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it all settling between us. "You have to contact him," Emma said finally. "Are you insane?" Just called him a supervillain. "Exactly. This is bigger than just finding your dad now. There's even a chance that you're connected to illegal genetic experiments. Don't you think you need to know? Don't you think other people need to know?" I hated that she was right. And I hated that she was right. It had moved beyond personal curiosity into something that felt like responsibility. If my father was doing something dangerous, something illegal, and if I was somehow connected to it, then hiding from the truth wasn't protecting anyone. That night, I called Mom again. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth," I said without preamble. "Sarah, am I some kind of experiment?" The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Mom, where are you getting these ideas?" "I found him. I found Dr. Robert Kessler. I know about his research. I know about the investigation. I know about the genetic enhancement work. Was I part of that?" I heard my mother take a shaky breath. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "He was brilliant and charming, and told me he was working on ways to eliminate genetic diseases. He said he could ensure that our children would never suffer from the kinds of hereditary conditions that had plagued both our families. It sounded like a miracle." My heart stopped. "What did he do to me?" "I don't know. I left before you were born. The moment I realized the scope of what he was really doing. At Sarah... ... Her voice broke. "You were so advanced, even as a baby. You walked at 8 months. You were reading by age 3. You understood complex scientific concepts by middle school. I always told myself it was natural that you just got his intelligence genes, but ... But what if it's more than that? I've been terrified of this moment for 21 years. After we hung up, I sat in my dorm room staring at my laptop screen. I had Dr. Kessler's email address from his research publications. All I had to do was type a message and hit send. 7 words that would change everything. "Hello, Dr. Kessler. I think I'm your daughter." My finger hovered over the mouse for what felt like hours. Finally, I typed, "My name is Sarah Mitchell. I believe you knew my mother, Linda Mitchell, 22 years ago." I hit send before I could lose my nerve. The response came back in less than an hour. "Sarah, I've been waiting for you to find me. Meet me tomorrow at Pike Place Market, 2 p.m., by the fish vendors. Come alone. There are things you need to know about who you are." Pike Place Market on a Friday afternoon is chaos. Tourists taking pictures, vendors shouting over each other. The smell of fresh fish and coffee and flowers all mixing into this overwhelming sensory assault. But somehow, when I saw him standing by the fish vendors at exactly 2 p.m., everything else faded into white noise. He was taller than I'd expected, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that was graying at the temples and those same intense eyes I saw in the mirror every morning. He wore a simple black jacket and jeans. But there was something about the way he carried himself that screamed scientist, like he was always observing, always analyzing. When our eyes met, his face broke into a smile that was both warm and somehow calculating. "Sarah." He said my name like he'd been practicing it. "You look exactly like I expected you would." "Expected? Come on, let's walk. Too many people here." We made our way through the market and down toward the waterfront. My mind was racing with questions, but he seemed content to walk in silence until we found a quiet spot overlooking Elliott Bay. 21 years, he said finally. "I wondered when you'd find me." "You could have found me any time. Why didn't you?" He turned to look at me, and for a moment his expression was almost sad. "Because your mother made me promise to stay away. And because I wasn't sure if you'd inherited my ... particular traits." "What traits?" Instead of answering directly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. "Tell me, Sarah, what do you see here?" He showed me what looked like a complex genetic sequence, rows and rows of letters representing DNA base pairs. "It's a genetic code," I said, "but I can't read it without more context. Look closer. Don't think about it. Just look." I stared at the screen, and something weird happened. The random letters started to form patterns in my mind, like when you're re-looking at one of those magic eye pictures and suddenly the hidden image pops out. I could see regulatory sequences, protein coding regions, even what looked like artificially inserted modifications. This is enhanced, I said, surprised by my own certainty. Someone has modified this genome, added sequences that don't occur naturally. Dr. Kessler, my father smiled. Most genetics PhD students couldn't identify those modifications without computer analysis. You just did it by looking. What is this? It's your genome, Sarah. The tablet slipped from my hands. He caught it easily, like he'd expected my reaction. That's impossible. I've never had my full genome sequenced. You have. When your mother was pregnant with you, she participated in what she thought was a routine prenatal care study. We took samples for genetic analysis, ostensibly to check for hereditary diseases. The pieces were falling into place in my mind, and I didn't like the picture they were forming. You experimented on me before I was born. I enhanced you. There's a difference. Enhanced how? He gestured for me to sit on a nearby bench, then sat beside me, careful to maintain some distance. Your mother was right to be afraid, he said, but not for the reasons she thought. Sarah, you're not just my daughter. You're proof of concept for the future of human evolution. My hands were shaking now. Explain. All of it. The modifications I made were subtle. It's enhanced neural development, improved processing speed, increased pattern recognition. It's better integration between logical and creative thinking centers. I also eliminated several genetic predispositions. No risk of Huntington's disease, which runs in my family. No predisposition to the early onset Alzheimer's that killed your mother's father. I stared out at the water, trying to process what he was telling me. You made me smarter. I made you better. Faster learning, better memory retention, enhanced problem-solving abilities. The way you just read that genetic sequence, it's not natural human capability, Sarah. That's what I gave you. Without my consent, without my mother's real consent. Your mother consented to giving you the best possible life.
Oh.
That's what every parent wants. No, I stood up, anger flooding through me. Every parent wants their child to be healthy and happy. They don't want their child to be a science experiment. Look at what you've accomplished, he said, his voice taking on a lecturing tone. Perfect grades, advanced placement in every subject, accepted to one of the best biochemistry programs in the country. You're 21 and already thinking at a graduate level. These aren't accidents, Sarah. This is design, and what's the price? What did your enhancements cost me? For the first time, his confidence seemed to waver. We're still studying that. There were others. 12 successful pregnancies with similar modifications over a 5-year period. You were the third. The world tilted. There are others like me, where 2 died in childhood. Their systems couldn't handle the neural acceleration. 3 died by suicide in their teens. The enhanced cognition came with enhanced emotional intensity that some couldn't manage. For others are thriving, like you. One, ... double quotes. He paused. One disappeared 2 years ago. I felt like I was going to throw up. What happened to the one who disappeared? We don't know. Marcus. He was the first successful subject, started asking questions about his origins, much like you did. When we tried to bring him in for study, he vanished. We think he might be trying to expose the program. Good for Marcus. Sarah, you don't understand. The work we're doing could eliminate genetic diseases. It could enhance human capability in ways that would solve climate change. End poverty. Advance science by centuries within decades. The few failures are tragic, but they're necessary sacrifices for the greater good. I looked at this man, my father, and realized that my mother hadn't just been afraid of him discovering my existence. She'd been afraid of me becoming like him, brilliant, obsessed, and completely lacking in basic human empathy. You're insane, I said quietly. I'm a visionary. So are you, whether you admit it or not. Why do you think you've always been drawn to genetic research? It's not coincidence, Sarah. It's programming. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. My passion for biochemistry, my fascination with DNA, my dreams of medical research, how much of that was really me, and how much was just following pathways he'd carved into my brain before I was born. I need to leave, I said, backing away from him. Sarah, wait. There's more you need to know about what's coming, about why I need your help. But I was already running. I drove back to campus in a state of complete emotional chaos. Every thought felt suspect now. Was this reaction my own, or was it programmed? Was my horror at what he'd told me genuine human emotion, or just another enhanced response to ethical stimuli? The questions were eating me alive. I called Mom the moment I got back to my dorm room. Told me everything. I said without preamble. Silence. Then quietly. How much is everything? The genetic modifications, the other children, the ones who died. My voice broke on the last word. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Yes, I hoped you'd never need to know. I prayed that somehow you'd just be normal, that whatever he'd done wouldn't take hold, or that you'd never find him. But you knew it had worked. You knew I wasn't normal. I heard her take a shaky breath. From the moment you were born, you were different. Too alert, too aware. You learned everything so fast it scared me. I kept telling myself it was just intelligence, natural gifts, but deep down I knew. Why didn't you ever get me tested? Why didn't you find out exactly what he'd done? Because I was terrified of what I'd find. Because I was afraid that if the scientific community found out about you, they'd take you away from me, study you like a lab rat. The irony wasn't lost on me, that my father had essentially turned me into exactly that, a lab rat with a college education. Mom, there are others. Other kids like me. Some of them died. I heard her start crying. Oh God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I should have warned you, should have prepared you for this. There's more. He wants my help with something. He said there was something coming, something I needed to know about. No, her voice turned sharp. Whatever he wants, the answer is no. Stay away from him, Sarah. Promise me. But I was already formulating a plan. As much as I hated what my father had done, as much as I was disgusted by his casual attitude toward human experimentation, I couldn't ignore the bigger picture. If there were other people like me out there, if some of them were in danger, if Marcus had disappeared because he'd tried to expose this program, I had a responsibility to do something. I can't promise that, Mom, Sarah, he said. There were 4 others who were thriving, the one who disappeared trying to expose the program. What if they need help? What if he's planning to do this to more children? The next morning, I did something that felt both incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. I emailed my father back. I'll meet with you again, I wrote, but I want answers. All of them. And I want to know about Marcus and the others. His response came within an hour. Meet me at my office tonight at 8 p.m. Come alone and be prepared for the full truth. You're going to want to sit down for this part. The Meridian Research Institute was in a sleek glass building in South Lake Union. It's the kind of place where tech companies and biotech startups paid enormous rent to look cutting edge and important. The lobby was all chrome and marble, with abstract art that probably cost more than my college tuition. Dr. Kessler, I still couldn't bring myself to think of him as Dad, met me at the elevator. Thank you for coming, he said as we rode up to the 15th floor. I know this is difficult. It's difficult doesn't begin to cover it. His office was exactly what I'd expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Walls covered with diplomas and awards, shelves lined with scientific journals and research texts. But what caught my attention were the photographs on his desk. Not family photos, but pictures of children at various ages. 12 children. Those are all of us, I said, moving closer to examine them. My greatest achievements and my greatest failures. I picked up one photo, a girl about 10 years old, with curly red hair and bright green eyes. What happened to her? Emma Chen. She was subject number 7. Brilliant beyond measure. Could solve complex mathematical proofs at age 8. But the emotional regulation systems couldn't handle the enhanced cognitive load. She had a complete breakdown at 11 and took her own life. He said it so clinically, so matter-of-factly, that I wanted to scream. She was a child, not a subject number. She was both. And her sacrifice has helped me understand how to better balance the neural enhancements in future subjects. Future subjects, the blood drained from my face. You're still doing this? Sarah, sit down. I remain standing. How many more children? The second-generation trials begin in 6 months. We have 23 pregnant volunteers, all women who understand they're participating in genetic enhancement research. Do they understand that their children might die? That they might commit suicide as teenagers? That they're signing up to be parents to lab experiments? They understand the risks and the potential benefits. Sarah, you need to see the bigger picture here. Climate change, overpopulation, the increasing complexity of global challenges. We need enhanced humans to solve these problems. Normal human intelligence isn't sufficient anymore. So you're going to create a race of super-intelligent people? Just hope they don't all kill themselves or disappear? I'm going to create a better future, and I need your help to do it. There it was. The real reason he'd agreed to meet with me. He'd want to study me. I want to learn from you. You're the most successful subject we've produced. Your neural integration is perfect. Your emotional regulation is stable. Your cognitive enhancement is functioning exactly as designed. If I can understand what made you different from the others, I can replicate it. What made me different was having a mother who loved me enough to take me away from you. His expression hardened. Your mother's interference nearly ruined the entire project. Good. I turned to leave, but his next words stopped me cold. Marcus didn't disappear, Sarah. We had to eliminate him. The word eliminate hung in the air between us like a toxic cloud. I turned back to face him, and for the first time since I'd found him, I was genuinely afraid. You killed him. We protected the integrity of the research. Marcus was going to expose everything. Decades of work, breakthrough discoveries that could revolutionize human evolution. He would have destroyed it all. I realized I was trapped in a room with a man who was not only a sociopathic scientist, but also a murderer. And he just told me exactly what happened to enhanced children who asked too many questions. This is why Mom ran, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She knew what you were capable of. Your mother was short-sighted, but you're different, Sarah. You understand the value of scientific progress. Join me.
Help me.
Perfect the next generation. Think of the lives we could save, the problems we could solve. By murdering people who disagree with you? By making difficult choices for the greater good? I looked at this man, this brilliant, delusional, dangerous man who happened to share half my DNA, and realized that everything I thought I wanted to know about my father. I'd been better off not knowing. What if I say no? His smile didn't reach his eyes. I don't think you will, you see, Sarah. I've been monitoring you for years. Your academic performance, your research interests, even your personal relationships. You're predictable because I designed you to be. Your ethical framework, your desire to help others, your compulsion to seek truth. All of that can be channeled toward assisting this research. You've been watching me? How do you think you got into Oregon State with a full scholarship despite your family's financial situation? How do you think your research proposals keep getting approved? How do you think you've managed to avoid the kind of personal struggles that derailed some of the other subjects? The room felt like it was spinning. Nothing in my life had been real. Nothing had been mine. I've been your puppet this whole time. You've been my daughter. And now it's time for you to take your place in the family business. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Tell me again about Marcus, I said. Tell me exactly how you eliminated him. His face changed as he realized what I was doing, but it was too late. In his arrogance, he'd already confessed to murder. Sarah put the phone away. I think the world needs to hear about your research, about the children who died, about Marcus. He lunged for the phone, but here's the thing about genetic enhancements. They went both ways. I was faster than he expected, stronger, more agile. I dodged easily and made it to the door before he could stop me. Sarah, you don't understand what you're doing? I understand perfectly. I'm doing what Marcus tried to do. I'm stopping you. I ran through the building and didn't stop until I was back in my car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely start the engine. But I managed to drive back to campus and straight to the computer lab. It took me 3 hours to upload everything I'd recorded, along with all the research I'd gathered about the Meridian Research Institute. To every major news outlet and scientific journal I could find, I sent it to the FBI, to university ethics boards, to human rights organizations. Then I called Mom. I'm coming home, I said when she answered. What happened? I stopped him. Or at least, I started the process of stopping him. Mom, he killed one of us, one of the other enhanced children, and he's planning to do this to more kids. I heard her gasp. Are you safe? For now? But we might need to leave town for a while. The story broke 3 days later. Rogue scientist admits to murder in illegal human enhancement program. The video I'd recorded went viral. Within a week, the FBI had raided the Meridian Research Institute and arrested Dr. Robert Kess,